To welcome you in our joint stream from Cxema and Boiler Room as a part of Boiler Room System Restart Festival. I remind you that Cxema is an independent initiative that started from 2014, is embodying a new wave of rave culture in Ukraine and in Europe. Before we start our show, I would like to thank to 20 Feet Radio who has kindly provided this space from which we are broadcasting right now. Today we have a very special program that will consist of 3 live shows, 3 live performances by Maryana Klochko, John Object and Voin Oruwu, with each of whom we will have a small talk on Kiev rave scene. We will also have an opportunity to watch a short movie made by Yarema Malashchuk and Roman Himey, which is called Dedicated to All the Youth in the World, Part 2. Also, we will touch a topic of rave representation together with Yana Franz, who is a photographer of Cxema. We will shed the light on the Ukrainian community and share the views of the representatives of the community on nightlife scene and in culture in general. Next to me is Yana Franz. Say hello. So Yana, my first question is that Cxema and your photos of Cxema reminds us of those sexual energy that charges the dance floor fulfilled with thousands of people. And today such photos seem inconvincible, and this seems pretty fair for the next future. This fact gives to those photos very special value. It is the evidence of what today we could risk in calling to the previous epoch. I'm interested in how you yourself defined your approach and how it differs street photography or fashion photography, if there is any kind of such division.
Я стараюсь быть незамеченной. То есть для меня важно, чтобы человек оставался самим собой и таким, каким он себя ощущает во время вечеринки и во время этого единения с толпой, и благодаря которому он раскрывается по-новому. Возможно, даже кто-то находит себя, потому что благодаря танцу мы можем высвободить и свое истинное «я». Ты не думаешь о каких-то рутинных заботах. То есть ты отдаешься моменту, и для меня очень важно в толпе заметить и зафиксировать этот момент, потому что я этим хочу показать, что не нужно бояться своих истинных, настоящих и внутренних чувств. Фэшн-съемки — это больше постановочные съемки. Во время вечеринки ты ощущаешь эстетику момента, вот, поэтому я бы даже не сравнивала эти виды съемок, потому что это совсем разное.
In many European nightlife events, especially in clubs, there is a strict no photo policy, and this seems very strange for me that in Berlin, for example, street photography was pushed out into a small photo box automat which stands on the streets or near to the clubs. In contrast, Cxema became known and popular both within Ukraine and abroad thanks to the photographs and videos taken during the events. Its visitors are very well aware that there is always a chance that the photographs will be in the internet next day, but this does not seem to stop but even attract more ravers. How do you yourself feel about no photo politics? Do you separate the public and the private when you shoot at parties?
Ну, заведомо я знаю, что люди, когда приходят на Cxему, они чаще всего хотят попасть на фотоотчет, потому что очень много было людей, которые мне писали ВКонтакте: пожалуйста, сфотографируй меня на Cxеме. Или подходили ко мне на вечеринки и просили сфотографировать. Но мне не интересно было фотографировать таких людей. Мне больше нравится наблюдать, и чтобы они не видели меня, и фотографировать в эти моменты. И да, были люди, которые иногда, когда выходил фотоотчет, они писали, что я не хочу быть на фотографии, точнее, я не хочу, чтобы меня было видно публично. Мы удаляли такие фотографии. Не хочется вступать в какие-то конфликты, и если им не хочется, то да, мы убирали эти фотографии. А насчет того, как я отношусь к запрету на фотосъемку на вечеринке, мы взрослеем. И вот лично мне, например, хочется прийти на вечеринку и расслабиться, не думать о том, что меня кто-то может сфотографировать. Этими фотографиями мы показываем историю развития украинской рейв-культуры. Мне хочется, чтобы, когда я буду бабушкой, мои внуки кичились перед своими одноклассниками и говорили: ну, моя бабушка там рейв фоткала и снимала схему. Ну, потому что я думаю, что через определенное время это будет более популярным, чем это даже есть сейчас. И мне интересно показать Украину для всего мира именно вот в такой интерпретации. Несмотря на то, что не все хорошо у нас, например, в стране происходит, молодые люди могут отвлечься, отдохнуть и почувствовать себя свободными.
Thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you for your reflections on the scene. And see you next time on Cxema, hopefully pretty soon.
Bye-bye!
In addition to numerous photographs which appears after each party of Cxema, and some of these pictures I acquired cult images of Kiev rave. There are also a few films which were made during Cxema, and from time to time it seems like the dance floor is a stage and the parties are production in progress. Our next guest is Yarema Malashchuk, who is director of the film dedicated to the youth of the world part 2, together with Roman Himey, and he is depicting the ravers on one of the summer Cxema, and you can watch the film just after our conversation. So, Yarema, hello.
Hello.
As far as I know, together with Roman, you have made at least 2 movies dedicated to the big gathering of masses. The first film was focused on religious pilgrims in the western Ukraine, and another one is focused on the ravers during the Cxema. What is special about shooting the big gathering of people?
Well, actually, we made not only 2 films about the gatherings. We did a lot of our projects were actually based on this notion of plurality, of notion of crowd. Cxema, as well as Zarvanica, our first feature documentary, is based on this notion. So I think what's the most interesting in this is that we kind of try to understand this this subject, to make it be more subjective, this concept of people, because there is something different between the crowd and the plurality, that people in, let's say, rave, they trying to be themselves while they are being together, and this identity is really liquid, and we are trying to identify it. Maybe this, just the try of it, is basically what we are focusing in on, the try to create this subjectivity of the people of this mass gathering.
Okay, and what kind of subjectivity of the gathering of Cxema, what is it about? And maybe, I don't know, does it have any kind of political potential, or is just a crowd of the individuals?
Well, the political potential of it, it's the question I'm also interested in, because somehow I feel like the raves are something in between raves in Ukraine, I guess. Maybe it's more about escape from maybe political, but at the same time it creates a new political identity, maybe, because we are really somehow stuck in this, Ukrainian realities, and this escape create some sort of somebody say freedom, somebody say, I don't know, like new identity, as I mentioned before. So this can be potentially something that will be later create some sort of a new way of thinking in a political way, I guess.
Talking about big masses, one can say that having 5,000 of people sharing common values, one can make, or at least can start a revolution. Do you feel any kind of lack of politicization of the movement, and do you see any potential of it?
Thanks for the question. I guess what we really know about raves, that it used to be sort of revolutionary movement. We know that they were created years ago as a sort of escape from that political system, and once it arrived to the eastern Ukraine, to the eastern Europe, to Ukraine, it's also the rave, the notion of rave is also looking for this political sense. And this is really the question, can it be political nowadays in this kind of neoliberal society? I guess everything is political, of course, and we should think about it this way. But for now, I feel like it's a mix between just the lifestyle, and it definitely has some potential, political potential, but I think we should work on it, work on this understanding what is it, what is all about, and we should not be afraid of politicize it.
Because right now, if we watch, for example, your movie, people in camera, in the frame, they look pretty confused. So it's hard to say that they're politicized or this is some other kind of problem you wanted to show.
Confusion can be also political.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's not about the people being political. Maybe that's more about the whole community. Maybe the whole idea of rave is political itself, because the lack of politics is also some sort of a politic, and how to define it, this is maybe the question. And I feel that the way people, let's say, deny this kind of politic, which is like, I don't know, presented in this society, can be also treated as a political position, and if they are confused, that they are confused because of what? I guess because of the feeling that they are lost in the daylight, in the daytime, and maybe that the system should be paying attention on the night as well as on the day, in this like metaphorical sense.
Okay, thank you, Yarema, for this conversation, and we will watch the movie right now. Thanks for sharing it, and then we will join with our next guest.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I remind that you are watching joint streaming from Cxema and Boiler Room from Snowy Kiev, and we've just watched a film by Yarema Malashchuk and Roman Himey called Dedicated to the Youth of the World, Part 2. I would like to introduce Maryana Klochko, a musician from Lviv. Maryana, if I'm not mistaken, you've never been to Cxema, have you?
Ні, я не була раніше, і це мала бути моя перша схема, і вона ще таки ще не відбулась.
Your performance at Cxema should have been a very unusual event because you're actually a singer and your tracks can be called songs. And were you surprised when you were invited at Cxema, and what's actually your approach to music?
Коли мені написали, запросили виступати, перше, що я зробила, просто закрила ноут і пішла випила заспокійливо, бо це для мене була така супер новина. Приємна, дуже стресова насправді, і я це так сприймаю, як якийсь супервеликий кредит довіри, який мені дали. І це так само, як з кредитними грошима. Ти маєш, тобі класно, в тебе є купа грошей, але є якесь таке теж, не знаю, панічне, легке відчуття разом з тим, от добрим, щось таке супертривожне є. В мене точно щось було подібне. І ще цей момент, що вона постійно відтягувалася, як щось, що от завтра буде, але ні, буде післязавтра, потім ще. І зараз взагалі я вже привикла до думки, що невідомо, що це просто якась магія, яка в якийсь день точно буде, але коли, невідомо. І я теж, добре знайома, з репертуаром, з людьми, які грають. І ще з цього боку було супер дивно мені, тому що моя музика, навіть та, яку я вважаю не надто спокійною, яка є, може, ритмічніша, ніж інші треки, вона все одно має в собі такий, кусок спокою. І може це навіть з якоїсь драматургічної точки зору круто мати таку, не те, що перерву, але мати простір до сприйняття різного, що може це навпаки кльовий хід. Або провальний, побачу.
Okay. Unfortunately, your performance and Cxema is postponed for we don't know for which period actually yet. Probably other of your plans were also cancelled. And how do you work out with these? What do you do as a musician? What are you oriented on right now?
От, в мене художня освіта, і я інколи ілюструю якісь книги, інколи пишу музику до виставок. Тобто, це теж музика, але теж цікаво, що коли я прийняла факт, що от виступів не буде як музиканта, то познаходилось багато якихось замовлень, співпраці там, не знаю, з фільмами, з фешн-показами, що мені прям супер подобається, що, в принципі, пов'язано з картинкою, з візуальним. І я навіть коли пишу музику, я теж виходжу з візуального. Я собі, в мене є в голові якийсь приснився сон, який я побачила, не забула, і він якось там переростає потім в тексти і доповнюється музикою. Не знаю, карантин мені допоміг, бо він дав купу простору і забрав оцю якусь метушню, не було куди спішити, і, знаєш, ти собі спокійно сидиш і працюєш. І я прям супер гарно пережила той час, і продуктивно, і мій репертуар до схеми міняється вже разів, може, 5. І я не знаю, яка вона буде, якщо треба буде почекати рік. Дуже все міняється. Мені перестають подобатися. Тобто в мене з критикою все в порядку, і те, що я там готувала на квітень, мені в жовтні було просто найгірше зі всього можливого.
It appears that you're already at least the second musician who is telling us that he is working on the music on films, and we've been talking a lot today about the visual culture of Kyiv. What's interesting for you in combining music and visual art?
Для мене дуже цікавим є досвід, коли ти ніби є дуже велика якась різниця між тим, що ти пишеш просто там, що тобі подобається, і тим, що хочуть від тебе в якості композитора. І дуже цікава річ, бо це настільки якось, це, не знаю, в голові вимикається, якийсь м'яз атрофується, якийсь включається, що ти маєш розуміти більше стан того, що відбувається на картині, і цікаво, бо я ніколи не думала про те, що в якихось інструментів є вік, гендер є. Ну, тобто, що ти не можеш якоюсь там, допустимо, гітарою визвучити молоду якусь людину, тому що гітара може звучати як якийсь втомлений 40-річний мужик, який йде з роботи, вертається, і в нього там багато проблем. І це, ну, там так багато нюансів, що це не обов'язково той арбітр, який має, мені сподобалось, значить ок. Що воно взагалі якусь таку мені площину відкрило, що мені здається, що я вчуся розуміти людей, роблячи музику до фільмів, тому що ми дуже багато з режисеркою спілкувалися, прям дуже багато спілкувалися. І я спершу ці такі довгі діалоги сприймала, як що от я зробила там з першого разу не то, з другого, з третього не то, що я настільки не в ту сторону іду, що мені прям так багато треба пояснити, щоб я розуміла, про що йде мова. Але, власне, в тому спілкуванні народжується якесь таке просто золоте розуміння історії. І ще в мене дуже цікава річ є, що я коли пишу до фільмів, наприклад, написала сцену, де там ти сидиш на дивані, вона там звучить якось так, а потім якась інша. Я твою вже все, я не пам'ятаю, якби мені хтось сказав, типу, її відмугикати, я її не пам'ятаю. І це дуже було кумедно, коли це допомагає одночасно працювати ніби над різними якимись сценами. І було кумедно, коли ми зараз перезаписували звук на студії звукорежисерами, і ми, типу, визвучували там відносно простору всі ті звуки. І мені було важко сказати, коли мене питали, чи це от так воно має звучати. І я просто, мені треба його послухати, згадати, якось тоді зрозуміти, лише тоді я можу якось відповісти, чи воно так звучить, чи не так. Бо я просто вже написала і відпустила. Я себе якось по-іншому відчуваю. Це так само, коли ти говориш, наприклад, англійською, російською чи французькою, у тебе язик проти по-іншому рухається. Ти інша людина тоді трошки. І так само трохи виходить і з музикою.
Thank you for joining us, and I really hope that we will see you in the nearest future on Cxema stage, and now we'll see your performance here in this studio in 20 Feet Radio. Thank you so much.
Дякую.
See you.
Прокинутись у раді, птахи не грають, пісні не співають. Так дивно уночі, так дивно уночі. Уночі покинутись у раї, птахи не грають, пісні не співають. Застудив свою ногу, тоді пішов з милицями по воді. Одна є нога, іншої нема, однією ступаєш по воді. Одна є нога, іншої нема, однією одно перевіряєш. Іншої питаєш. Де твої інклюзивні вуси? Підвезіть мене, де мої інклюзивні плечах, на плечах, на плечах, на плечах. Стилус, їх тепер нема. Іду і тілом пишу ці слова, напевно, напевно. Даремно, даремно. Де твої інклюзивні пульси? Підвезіть мене, де мої інклюзивні пульси? Підвезіть мене, демони інклюзивні пульси? Підвезіть мене, демони, 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 демони. це не я, розмита, це ти навпириски, це не я, розмита, це ти навпириски, хлопчик цикломен, хлопчик цикломен, це не я, розмита, це ти навпириски, це не я, розмита, це ти навпириски, хлопчик цикломен. Розгорни мою газету життя на сьомій сторінці. Покажи, як лікує верба, як мене там лікують чорнобривці. Розгорни мою газету життя на сьомій сторінці. Покажи, як лікує верба, як мене там лікують чорнобривці. Хлопчик, хлопчик, цикломен, хлопчик, 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 цикломен, хлопчик, 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 цикломен, хлопчик, 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 цикломен. Зажму до великих пікселів, бери долоньку і ти, бери долоньку і ти, бери, я себе зажму до великих пікселів, бери долоньку і ти, бери долоньку і ти, бери. Я себе зажму до великих пікселів, бери в долоньку і ти, бери в долоньку і ти, бери, хлопчик цикломен, хлопчик цикломен. Розмита, це ти навпириски, це не я, розмита, це не я, розмита, це ти навпириски, це не я, розмита, це ти навпириски, це не я, розмита, це ти навпириски, не я, розмита, це ти, це не я. Розмита, це ти навпириски, це не я, розмита, це ти навпириски, це ти, це не я, розмита, це ти навпириски, це не я, розмита, це ти навпириски, це ти. быть, быть осторожным, но не всегда означает качество с точки зрения пользы. Интересно и сложно. Это та самая практика, которая помогает остановиться с точки зрения движения, остановиться и проанализировать происходящее. Что значит жить? Интересно жить. Интересно жить. Интересно жить. Интересно жить. Что значит жить? Интересно и сложно. Тело как текст, тело как полотно, тело как текст, тело как полотно, тело как текст, тело как полотно, тело как текст. В границах предметности слова выражается в значении изображения. В границах предметности слова выражается в значении изображения. Что значит жить? Интересно жить. Интересно жить. Интересно жить. Что значит жить? Интересно жить. Интересно и сложно. То ли плохо, а потом сразу хорошо. И невнимание степь больше обычного. Сильно странно, так непривычно, сильно странно, так непривычно жить. Вона таблетки пила, але самопочуття погіршилось настільки, що помирати зібралася. А я добре знаю, бабусю. Вона таблетки пила, але самопочуття погіршилось настільки, що помирати зібралася. А я добре знаю, вона бездомних кішок завжди підпирала. Я наполягала. Вона бездомних кішок завжди підпирала. Я наполягала, щоб вона лікувалася, завжди підпирала, лікувалася, завжди підпирала, лікувалася, завжди підпирала. Sanana Rika Sawana. Hey, Makrana. Hey, Makrana.
We are back again here on the couch of the 20 Feet Radio. Our next guest is Timur Jafarov, aka John Object. Yeah, welcome.
Hello.
As far as I know, you are not big fan of clubs and parties, and you prefer different pastime, but you still like Cxema. What is special in it, apart from the fact that it gives you an opportunity to communicate to thousands of people from the stage as an artist?
Well, I feel that when you come to Cxema, you're not really going to a club. You're more going out, socializing, meeting new people. I feel that Cxema is interesting in that the fun part is not actually going inside and seeing, the dance floor or whatever, but it's actually going outside and seeing like thousands of people just hanging out, talking, and you happen to meet a lot of people. Actually, that's my favorite part about Cxema, is going outside and seeing all the people smoke and drink and talk, meeting someone. Because really, listening to loud techno, loud different kinds of electronic music, you can do that pretty much anywhere here. And Cxema is unique in the sense that you go outside and there's like 5,000 teenagers or young adults, and it's amazing, and you don't really see that anywhere else. I feel that at Cxema you can either get lost and just separate from your friends and just be somewhere in the crowd, and no one will be able to find you for the rest of the night. Or you can stay with your friends and meet someone else, meet someone new. I think Cxema is interesting because it's more about the people than about the music. It's really, for me, more of a kind of place where you go out and you dress up, you do something, you bring new friends, you meet someone else.
How do you feel about Kyiv without Cxema for a year and a half, I guess?
It's weird because I kind of took Cxema for granted. It was always there. You could always go. So I missed a lot of Cxema parties, kind of on purpose, because I was, I'll go next time, And now it's not there anymore, and it's really difficult because the next one was supposed to be really great. They had Maryana Klochko, who I've always wanted to hear live, and someone else I forget. But basically, the lineup was really beautiful, and I was excited, and then it got cancelled. And the thing is, it was something that was part of living in Kiev, and now it feels like you're not really in the city as much as you were, because you don't go to the same places, you don't do the same things. Now it's weird, really.
It looks like it's pretty hard to orient in the culture without such kinds of events.
Yeah, I mean, Cxema is something that you can't really replace, It's not... to me, it's a pretty unique experience in the sense that no one else is going to bring in the same kinds of artists, They had a Cxema with the label Pan from Berlin, which is one of my favorite labels probably, and as far as I know, the artists from the label haven't really played in Kiev at other parties, if I'm not mistaken. So I miss that because it just so happened that Cxema kind of had the same taste in musicians as me, maybe, to a certain extent. I don't like techno, I don't like house music or whatever, but when it comes to headliners and people who play at 2, 3 a.m., that's the kind of stuff that I like, really, usually. So I miss that. One thing that I can say that while Cxema was in action, it was beautiful when I got to hear my friend Alexei Podach at Cxema, which was the first and last time that I've heard him on really proper huge speakers. And I think his music really it's made for really huge speakers and really huge spaces. And unfortunately, he just, he's been playing really small spaces after that, and it's not the same. And only at Cxema you can hear him in a huge, huge venue. And actually, we were lucky because he was playing kind of warm-up. He was the first one, and there was almost no one there. And the music was also kind of weird. So, I mean, not weird, it's experimental, it's heavy. And so almost no one came in. and it was fucking amazing. Like the acoustics and just everything. You know, like only at Cxema you can get that. The feeling of like really brave and experimental music, really loud, really like in your face and for everyone.
This year, without the parties, could actually reorient some musical tastes of the artist and also of the audience. But does it work with you? What's you're working on right now, if we talk about the music?
I mean, I have to admit that I'm not really a listener of electronic music. You know, I just, at home, I don't really usually play that stuff. It's really only interesting when it's like in a huge space. And I really like specific kinds of electronic music, experimental stuff. So the only chance to hear really experimental stuff on a really good sound system was, well, Cxema, you know. So now what I just kind of, I find myself coming back to like songs and like kind of rock and pop music and the stuff that I liked as a kid. And like my first big musical love was David Bowie, and that's the kind of music that I listen to now, you know.
So you are playing rock right now?
I'm trying to, yeah. Actually, that's I'm just, you know, trying to start a band now, and it's weird because when there's no club experiences, you don't really think about electronic music at all. And so I've been just listening to that new Fiona Apple album, which is fucking amazing. And like some rock stuff, some like indie, some like weird pop shit from the 80s and whatever. And I find that I don't really miss the danceable stuff because at home it just doesn't work. So I don't listen to anything that like has electronic drums or something. And it has influenced me in what I'm trying to do, what I'm writing. I'm really kind of into like rock music now, and you know, me and my friends, we kind of started a punk rock band, and we're trying to like do like this angry political Ukrainian thing, you know, and it's weird. I know that it's not something that people would expect from me, but at the same time, like there's nothing else to do, so I'm like turning to like my dreams from my teenage period, you know, what I wanted to do when I was like 15. So now it feels like we have a break, we're like in limbo, so you can do whatever.
Okay, good. So we are waiting for your rock stuff, and thank you for joining us today.
No problem, thank you for having me.
hard. I get so hard. The juice get so hard. Only down. Get so hard. I get so hard. BBC. I get so hard. The shoes get so hard. It's just so hard, so hard.
I'll admit it. Watch your motherfucking tone, boy. Yeah, it hurt, boy. All here going on, motherfucker, they don't understand the concept of putting money first, boy. I'm about to hit you with the word, boy. I'm about to hit you with the... I hate coming through stunting on niggas that I know. That's the worst, boy. Worst. I'll admit it. You haven't been in for like a minute. I told you that I'm in it for the long. You can really get the business. I'll admit it. Call the switches, hit the switch. Got me feeling like a ball. I don't pass it when I get it. I'll admit it. You too worried about it. I got one girl, she's my girl, and nobody else can hit it. She'll admit it. She ain't fucking with you, nigga. It's just like every single other thing in my life. You can have it when I'm finished. I hear the talk on. around, got the whole city away right now. Yeah. So I don't give a fuck about what anybody's saying right now.
I wonder which I like more, caffeine or alcohol.
We are still alive. I hope you are still alive, and we're gonna see each other on a big stage, on a big festival, hopefully this year, but you don't know, and that's the reason why we are here. I hope you enjoy it at home. Please stay home, party at home, drink at home, whatever you want, whatever you need.
Our last but no less important guest is Dima Avksentiev, who is known as Voin Oruwu or Koloa. Dima, hello.
Hey.
Dima, unlike most of musicians that play on Cxema, you're a kind of a veteran of the nightlife scene in Kyiv. You're participated in different initiatives which existed long before Cxema. You played in different clubs and you played different music, and some of those clubs do not even exist anymore. If we look on Cxema in the perspective of several decades, what role does it play in it?
I wanted to create something perfectly fit to the time and place where I will play. So I was spent a month in studio and create that kind of music I still use now. Savage rhythm, like huge bass lines, trancey sounds. All this now is like sound of Voin Oruwu, and I can tell that it was born while I was preparing to Cxema. So it influenced me like very, very much. And after that first gig there, I was very inspired and continue to work in this kind of music.
And it seems like pandemic did not actually damped your inspiration? I've heard you've been working right now on a new multimedia project and on new release. Could you tell a bit more about this?
I was not really desperate when all this pandemic began, and it was a good chance to sit in studio and work, because it's not a secret that more gigs you have, less studio work you do. So for musicians, it's very important. Another interesting project I'm working on, I'm making music to a theater plays. It's my big dream to make music to movies and to a theater. Last year I did my first movie, and this year I did already 2 plays. And for me, it's great experience, and I think if pandemic didn't happen, this project didn't happen as well.
So you had much more time for music stuff.
It is, yeah. So all my time I spent in studio now, so already a year, and I will have 3 releases, like big releases. My album, my Kola album is coming on Hyperboloid Records. Also this virtual reality EP, and a couple singles which I will release in autumn.
Thank you, Dima, for your conversation. And before we start our latest performance by Voin Oruwu, I would like to say thanks to all the listeners and viewers for being with us today. And I would like to wish health to everybody and best wishes and love from Kyiv. See you next time.
either do you.